Good morning from Melbourne in Australia. My name is Tracy Held and you're joining us for our March Global SU Share Fair. So welcome today. I hope that you're going to have a fun day. We always have great projects, so I'm sure that you're going to get lots of inspiration. First up, I am your admin for the South Pacific area. And the normal things, just to let you know, if you don't catch the live, everything is there on replay. We will create an album with all of the projects in and video links to those projects, so you don't need to scroll through hundreds of videos. You can just go into the current album and click on the link for the video that you want. If you want to order anything, please refer back to the demonstrator that invited you to this share fair. We do have a show special this time. So again, it's one of our single fold tutorials where everybody's putting different versions of their cards. Lots of inspiration in there. The tutorial is beautiful. I've been working on it. It's ready to go. So I'm sure that you're going to enjoy that. So now that we've got that out of the way, let me show you my card. There we go. So this is the card that I'm going to do today. The one thing about it is that it's going to get in and use up your DSP, which is always a good thing considering that we've got a new catalogue coming soon and we need to use up the old DSP before we start hoarding new. So this card is going to flip open like that. You've got your sentiment there and a nice big piece inside for you to write your notes. Now, I will have all the measurements in the description, but we do need to do some scoring, and I'm going to go through that with you. But before we do that, let's have a look at the products that I'm using. So only one stamp set, the Wildlife Wonder. I guess unfortunately for us, this doesn't have a corresponding dies, so anything that you want to cut needs to be fussy cut. But I didn't let that deter me. I went and I found as many different dies as I possibly could to put into this card. Oops, that was me dropping my ruler. So the trees are from the Groves dies. Now, I'm sure you've seen these around. These are absolutely beautiful dies. My little frilly bit is from the Encircled in Beauty. I have one of my layering circles dies, which matches over that. And when I did my video yesterday and told you everything that I would be using, of course I skipped a couple of dies because we need some of the layering stitched rectangles as well. So these ones, if you're counting from the largest stitched rectangle, this is the 4th and the 5th one. And because we're using so many dies, we're not doing a huge amount of stamping, so all that we need for stamping is our soft suede ink pad. Other than that, we're good to go. Now, the DSP that I'm using is from the Beauty of the Earth DSP. I really like this DSP with the stamp set. It just works well with all the wild animals and everything. The one thing that you want to make sure is that both sides of the DSP work together and you like both sides with them. I find that sometimes you don't know which side of the DSP to use, but sometimes it's like the two sides don't really like talking to each other. So you just want to make sure that you're going to be seeing both sides of the DSP, so make sure that you actually like them together. Alright, so we're starting with our piece of DSP. If you're working in imperial measurements, it's your full 12 inches of DSP. If we're in metric, I've cut off just a tiny 1/2 centimeter, so it's going to be 30 centimeters along. And then we're going to score. So make sure that your cutting blade is out of the way, and we're scoring that at 5 centimeters. Okay, then 12.5 centimeters and 20 centimeters. And if you're working in inches, you're scoring at 3, 5, and 8 inches. That's all the scoring that we need to do. And then we're going to fold it. So our first fold is going with, I'm going to call it the reverse side here, up. And then we're going that one. So we're folding, accordion pleating it backwards and forwards. All right, so give it a good press with the bone folder. And you may find, particularly when you've got that inside piece in, that it doesn't want to sit flat, but if you just put it underneath a heavy book or something for a couple of days, that'll help flatten it as well. Now I'm going to open it up like that, and we're going to glue these two pieces together. So if I'm looking at my card, that's this flap over here, which is making sort of that page. So that's glued together. And then my card base is just a standard quarter sheet of your either A4 or letter size piece of paper. And we can glue the DSP onto there. So now that we've got our card base organized, let's do some stamping. So I am going to stamp over, so I just want to grab in a piece of paper to stamp it. So that's our smallest stitched rectangle. And I'm going to stamp the bear. Now, I'll tell you that I did this a few times. So you just want to be careful because you actually want to stamp that bear lower than you think you're going to. Okay, just so that you get it poking out. If it's stamped higher, then you're not going to see him because of the trees. So as much as it sort of haunts you, you're stamping that his paws are off your sheet, and we want his nose close to the edge. There we go. If that looks very much darker, it's because I had to get a new soft suede ink pad, so it's very nice and juicy. All right, then for our sheet inside, okay, that's going to be a 12 by 12 centimeter square, or 4.5 by 4.5 inches, and you're going to score it in the middle. And then I'm going to stamp my bear again, that he's just walking onto the page there, and I'm going to stamp my owl up at the top, but I'm just going to stamp the owl off because I want it slightly less dark than that. Oops. Okay, stamped his head off. Okay, sorry, we just have to do that again. What do we say? Paper has two sides, because I wanted the owl lighter, but remember the old-fashioned photos before we could do digital photos and get instant gratification, where you had to be careful that you didn't cut people's heads off, because that just ruined your photo, which you didn't know about until however long later when you had it developed. Alright, now onto my scalloped circle. I'm stamping these little, I don't know whether, I was going to say bulrushes, but there wouldn't be bulrushes in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, I'm stamping off twice because I do want it quite light. And we're just randomly stamping them over my circle. And I'm taking my To a Great Guy sentiment. This would be a nice masculine card, birthday card. There we go. And we're going to stick that into the middle of our doily die cut. And that's the perfect size. It just goes into the stitched, I wanted to say edging, but it's not quite an edging in there. Right, so that's all our stamping done. Now we can stick him onto our larger stitched rectangle. Okay, before we do that, I forgot something really important, and now this is going to make a great big mess. Okay, we want our trees. So I've cut out the full die of those trees, just so you can see it is a beautiful die. You're not going to need the full die, so you could have just cut a portion of it, and I positioned it like that so that this tree trunk here was just on the edge of the bear. So let's just put a bit of glue there, and I'm going to put a bit of glue on the back. Now this is, I'm really making a mess of this because I put glue on the back of that first, but oh well, we sometimes do silly things, but I will sort it out. Alright, so there we go. We're positioning that over there so that we've got him walking through the trees. And then you can just trim that off so that it's in line with the stitched rectangle. And yep, it would be easier to do this on the trimmer, but seeing that I've got glue all over everywhere, we're doing it by hand. Because this is one thing you definitely cannot put on after you've stuck this down. It needs to be, the trees need to be on before. Okay, try that again. Now we can glue the back. Maureen's commented about the bear coming through the trees. It's quite funny, Maureen, because you know, and I don't know, I'll tell people who don't know my husband's name. Going. Okay, sorry, it looked like my video was dropping out, but it's back again, so hopefully you didn't have any issues there. Right, now we're going to stick the bear on, and he's going on here with dimensionals. Now be careful because you don't want dimensionals on this side, because otherwise you're going to be sticking the card closed. So And just remember, it's when you turn things over, you tend to flip it and then get confused. So we want our dimensionals down that size. All right, Rose, I would like you to learn from my mistakes and don't do the same thing. Although I think that sometimes when somebody's done something wrong, then you kind of get into your head that that's how you have to do it and we'll go and copy it. Please don't do that, but if you do, that's how you save it. All right, so we're sticking that now. I want this stuck so that that's slightly over the fold, but ever so slightly. So my stitched line here is in line with my fold over there, and try and get it straight and more or less in the middle. I think sometimes you're so focused on your next step that you don't think about what you've been doing, well, what you need to do. And then we're going to stick that in. Now again, we want that so that make sure that number one, your sentiment's the right way around, and we want sort of the edge of the scallop circle here in line with that, and we're going to have that so that it's roughly in the middle of them. Okay, now again, when you're putting glue, be careful, we don't want glue on this edge. So we're gonna, and I'm just gonna put glue on the back of the circle here. I'm not going to worry about the frilly bits. And yeah, the important thing to remember here is to get that your sentiment is the right way around. May or may not have had to rip a card apart because when I stuck it, the sentiment was skew or upside down. So see, sometimes I can learn from my mistakes. Sometimes it takes a few times before you learn. There we go. And lastly, we want our bit inside. Now we're going to put the fold against the fold. I just folded this the other way, so let's give it a good press with the bone folder. And we're going to line it up so that that fold is against that fold and it's roughly in the middle. Now when I'm doing this, I always like to do half, get that stuck down, and then do the other half rather than sticking glue on both sides. Okay, so, and we want it roughly in the middle. And now I can put my glue on the other side. And just remember that now you've got that double fold happening in the middle over there. So give it a nice press with the bone folder. Just be careful that you don't squish your pretty bits on your doily. And there are our cards. So I'm very happy. I've used up a whole heap of my DSP. So any of the Beauty of the Earth DSP works really well with the stamp set because you've got those flowers, and when I said flowers I did mean sort of trees and leafy backgrounds. So they work really well with the animals, and of course combine it with these leafy tree dies and you've got a match made in heaven. Alright, so I'll get a photo of this up and the link to the video, and that's going to be up at 10:30 our time, so another 8 minutes your time. I hope that you're going to enjoy the rest of the day. Keep going with your lists. Remember, if you're in Australia, because we got all of the celebration items so late, they did extend celebration for us by the time, an extra week and a half because we didn't have them. So if you're in Australia and there's still stuff that you want or you're going to want after watching today, get your order in, because you can still earn those celebration items. If you're anywhere else in the world, remember, if you're spending over your amount and you get your host code, we've got the great sale going on with that mini cut and emboss machine and some of the die sets, so you can get those depending on how much your celebration rewards are. So enjoy the rest of the day, and I will catch you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.